Warning: Superpower Review is intended for a mature viewing audience. This video may show images that are not suitable for kids under 13 years old. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey, what's going on everybody? It's Ken Vidini here for Superpower Review. And on today's video, we have Torrey Quella, the president and owner of Twin Cities Comics. What's going on, Torrey?
Hey, how you guys doing today?
We're doing fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
You are welcome.
It's always nice when somebody contacts the show about coming on the channel. It makes my job a little bit easier.
Yeah, you don't have to go out and find people. That's correct.
Yeah, so thank you so much for doing that. So
you're welcome.
Why don't you take the time right now to tell the subscribers a little bit about yourself and what Twin City Comics is about?
Yeah, so I've been the owner of Twin Cities Comics since about 2001. Started off just selling comic books on the side, and I had a full-time job at the time. And in about 2009 or 10, I started attending comic book conventions, and I was really going for the exclusives that everybody was trying to get at the time. Then I started to get items signed and submitted through CGC because I'd been a CGC dealer since about 2002. And in about 2009, when the resurgence of Marvel movies started coming up and more of the television shows that were comic book related, we had some of our customers ask us if we could get stuff signed by different celebrities that were attending the conventions. So the people from Arrow and all of the other CW shows, Marvel movies obviously being big. And that kind of basically versed us from being just comic creators to also doing the celebrities at the same time. So we would go to a show, and anybody that was at that show, we could get items signed. We started out just doing comic books, but then as our business has grown, we've been doing Funko Pops with the resurgence of that, so people send in Funkos,
Yep.
posters, etc. But the main source is still going to be comics, and that's probably over 2/3 of what we get signed at a typical convention or signing.
What made you decide to open up Twin Cities Comics?
So in 2001, I had a friend that said he had a buddy that was moving. He was moving out to Washington State, and he had a lot of comics, and he didn't know what to do with them. And he's like, "Would you be interested in buying them?" And I told him, like, "Yeah, but just not really knowing what's in there, I can give him an offer." And he said that the whatever comic shop was by at that time had offered him like $500. I said, "Well, I tell you what, I'll give him double that. I'll give him $1,000." So I got in on that deal. I didn't make a ton of money, but I probably doubled my money. And a lot of the books that I didn't sell were $2 and $3 and $4 books. I took those and I donated those to a children's hospital. And I realized that there's a lot of people out there that might have books in their basement that they didn't know what they wanted to do with. So I put an ad out in the paper that I was buying comic collections, and I got flooded. So I started buying collections. And at that point, I started taking out the ones that I thought would be really high grade, sending those to CGC, and that's when I actually created my business. And at that point, I was just buying and selling comic books. Then I started getting into new releases and getting into the moderns, where I would go on Wednesdays. We've had a 9.8 subscription service for a number of years. That's become less of our business just because we travel so much now. And then at some point, I started to see that we were having to either turn away business, or I was just too busy to do a full-time job and the business on the side. And in 2015, I went full-time with the business.
And so you've been around for a while now.
Correct, yes.
So with everything that's been said so far, you said you started off with comic creators, and then you moved on to start, having these celebrities come down and, sign pops and stuff. Off the top of your head, name some of these people that you've had the pleasure of meeting.
At conventions, we've signed with Chris Evans, we've signed with Stan Lee multitude of times, we've signed with Chris Hemsworth, Brie Larson, I've signed with Michael J. Fox a number of times. He was actually my first ever private signing, went out to New York and signed with him. We're going to be signing with Harrison Ford and Al Pacino coming up. But a lot of the guys, if you've been to a comic convention and you've seen somebody at a convention, we've probably signed with those people.
And so do you have like a person that you've met that's, super memorable to you? Like what is like one of the favorite memories you have with, owning this business?
If you would have told my 15-year-old self that I was going to get to meet Stan Lee, obviously I would have never believed it. If you would have told my 15-year-old self that I was going to be meeting A-list celebrities that I, grew up watching, movies with. I mean, one of my favorite shows growing up was Back to the Future. Mm-hmm. So the first time I got to meet Michael J. Fox to this day is probably my favorite interaction. Very, very nice guy, really gracious. Super funny. He cracks jokes the whole time, and I probably signed with him 4 or 5 times, twice out in New York at fairly large private signings. And he's just one of those guys that you want to believe that your heroes are that nice in person, and he's one of those people.
Yeah, that's always nice because, as they say sometimes, it's best that you don't meet your heroes, right?
Right, exactly.
I've been to a couple of cons where I've met a couple of my heroes and like, maybe yeah. I was better off not meeting them.
Right. Well, to be fair, they're people as well. So you go into a convention, are you getting somebody on a good day? Or are you getting somebody on a bad day? So yeah. I've had interactions with some people where I was like, that wasn't the best, and the next time they're really nice. So, they are human beings, and you got to give them a little bit of slack.
I'm sure after all these years, you've gained quite the collection yourself, right?
Yeah, I've got a lot of comic books. I've got a lot of signed props. I've got a lot of posters that I've been working on over the years. So there's quite a bit of stuff in my basement, that's for sure.
Is there a Grail piece that you have?
Yeah, so I've got a Captain America shield that I was lucky enough to meet Chadwick Boseman a couple times before he passed away. We actually had a large signing set up with him late last year that was going to happen this year, and of course before he passed, we weren't able to get it done. So that being said, as I've got Stan Lee on that, I've got Chadwick Boseman on that, and I'm a huge Marvel fan, so that is probably it. On top of that, I've met a lot of the original cast of Star Wars, and being a huge Star Wars fan as well, I've got a couple comic books that are signed by pretty much the entire main cast. Wow. Aside from the people that had passed away before I did signings.
Cool. And so what are some of the events that you have coming up? Do you have people coming in to do signatures anytime soon?
Well, yeah, right now, obviously, we're not doing any conventions, which is a main source of what we do. So we've got this weekend, actually, I'm out in LA, so we're going to be signing with Margot Robbie on Friday.
Wow.
From that point, we go back, and we've got a signing in LA again, and we're going to be signing with Anthony Starr and Erin Moriarty. That one is from 2 of the people from The Boys. Then we got another one out in LA where we signed with Harrison Ford and Al Pacino. We've got some other things that are in the works that are going to be probably first part of next year. And just like everybody else, we're hoping that conventions in some capacity come back. Hopefully mid next year. We'll see what happens with that.
So when you have these these celebrities and artists come, what do they generally sign?
So obviously we do mostly comic books, and okay. When we go to a convention, we have a mailing list that'll say, hey, we're going to this convention. So it could be C2E2, San Diego. We do about 30 conventions a year. And at the conventions, we basically say, look, if there's somebody there, whether or not it's a celebrity or whether or not it's an artist, we can get something taken care of for you. So at a convention especially, we're doing probably 90% comic books because we're not just dealing with the celebrities, but we're also taking stuff for all of the creators there. At the private signings, generally speaking, we do a lot more of the celebrity private signings. And at those, like I said, we've got comic books. Funko Pops right now are the hot thing. Of course, a lot of people are Funko collectors. Yeah. When you're talking about the Marvel movies or Star Wars and things like that are really merchandising juggernauts, we've got action figures. People send in full-size shields. For Game of Thrones, we had a bunch of swords that were signed. We signed by Arnold Schwarzenegger a couple years ago, and we got Conan's sword signed at that time. Wow. So pretty much anything that relates to the people and characters that they've played. It could be, we also do a lot of just regular photos. So it's funny that some people might get a selfie of themselves taken, because they run into somebody in a parking lot or something. And we'll have people send us those photos then that they want to get signed by that celebrity that they've had a photo taken with before.
So people send in things for them to get signed. Do you have things that, could already be signed? Like, do you have the item in hand too as well? We
will for some signings. The issue is I don't want to really pigeonhole our customers. So for instance, if I've got a signing, we've got the signing with Anthony Starr and Aaron Moriarty coming up. And there are so many good images from the Boys series that if I was to pick or choose 4 or 5, you might say, well, I don't really like any ones of these. I'm just going to pick, this one. So what we allow people to do is we allow them to send in whatever they'd like. We can help them get something printed if they can't do it themselves. But a lot of people just go onto eBay. They're like, oh, I really like this image. It's got both of these characters. I can send it in for both of them. The other thing that people can do, though, is if they find a really nice image just by doing a Google search, they can send it to us and we can help them get that printed. When it comes to Funkos and comics and things like that, most people want to send in their own items, especially comic books. People have been collecting for years and years, and when we first signed with Arnold Schwarzenegger, people were pulling out Conan books that they've owned for 20 years. Yeah. People pulled out Batman books that had Mr. Freeze on it, and they want to pick whatever image is what they think. Art is really subjective, as we all know. So you might think one Batman cover is really cool. Somebody might not think that one's cool. So when we have a Jim Lee signing, you send in your favorite Jim Lee comic. But there are some signings where we will do like a special, like for Margot Robbie, we actually worked directly with DC and Celebrity Authentics, who's also in part of this, and we created a photo cover that was brand new for this signing, because there's not a lot of stuff for her to sign when it's comic book related outside of just regular Harley Quinn comics. So we can do something if somebody doesn't have something that they want to send in themselves.
Very cool. So if someone was interested in one of your signings that are upcoming, how would they go about submitting something in for signing? So
for the private signings that we have, our website is twincitiescomics.com. If you go to our website, you can go to our store, and there's a section called Current Signings. Within that section, it'll list all of the signings that we have coming up. You can go in there and you can choose what type of item that you'd like to send in, whether it's a CGC comic, whether it's a raw comic that you want to get CGC facilitated, whether it's a poster, a Funko Pop, you name it. When conventions come back, then we have a mailing list, and on the mailing list we'll let people know what conventions that we're attending. We normally have a list to the guest list, because when we're doing a signing with one individual person, it's pretty easy to do an online ordering form. Yeah. When I'm going to be going to New York Comic Con and they've got 120 different artists, I'm not really going to build out 120 different names, knowing that I might only get 1 or 2 items for some people. I might get 30 or 40 for others, and I might get 100 and something for a Jim Lee or a Robert Kirkman. So for conventions, we just let people know, especially if it's comic books, here's the guest list. You let us know what you want. They can send us an email stating that I'd like to get something by these artists, by these celebrities, and we can let them know, yes, we can help them, or no, we can't. Because there are some celebrities at conventions that aren't signing, that they're there just for a panel. So we always let people know, contact us first, and if we can help you, we will. And then when they send us the items, we will then at that point send them an invoice for the signature. If they have their own CGC account, we definitely would rather it go under their account, because I don't want to be having something under our account when, let's say you've got your own account. You can log in at any point and see where your individual items are within a system. Yep. If you don't have an account, then definitely you can use ours. But if you do, we'd rather you put it under yours, because that way you can track it. And honestly, it's less work for me, because I don't have everybody contacting me saying, what's the time frame of my books. You can log in and look at it yourself.
That's super important, and I'll tell you why. Because there's been many times where I've sent in a comic book to a facilitator, who is also a CGC facilitator, and the comic books are underneath their account. And so there's no way of, me, for instance, to look at where the process is of my book. Is it being graded right now? Is it still being held? So that is very important, and that's actually pretty cool.
The other thing is, and most people don't know this, if you don't have your own account and you submit something under a dealer's account like Twin Cities Comics, if we give you the invoice number and it's under your name, CGC will actually, if you call them and say, hey, I submitted a comic to Twin Cities Comics, this is my name, this is my invoice number, they will at that point tell you where it is at in the system, because it's under your name, so they know that even though it's under Twin Cities Comics, it's your item. But a lot of places don't know that you can do that, And again, it's a little bit more work because then you've got to contact us, get the invoice number, etc. When you're doing it under your own, you can log in anytime and just click on your CGC account, see where it's at in the in submissions, and it's a lot easier. Plus, then for a fact, hey, it's in there because I can see that it hit my account. The problem with us is that unlike a regular person who might submit 1 or 2 items, when we are doing a signing, we might have 100 invoices under our account, and then for us to actually go in and try to find it becomes a little bit more difficult. So it might take us a couple of days to get that information to you, whereas you have it right there at your fingertips.
Yeah, totally makes sense. So you already mentioned your website. What other platforms do you use that people can get a hold of you?
So we are on Facebook. So if you go to Facebook and look up Twin Cities Comics, you'll see us there. On Facebook, that's one of the places that what we'll do is after a signing, we'll post a couple pictures of the signing, let people know how it went. It will also do new announcements on Facebook. We have Instagram as well, and we have Twitter. So pretty much all of your main social media platforms. The easiest is our mailing list. If you do go to our website, you can sign up on that on the bottom of each page. Our mailing list basically will allow you to look or to get information on when we're having new signings, if there's a change in a signing date. We actually had one signing that we just had where we got a piece of mail, and I'll get to this in a second, but we got a piece of mail and we had no idea who it came from. So we can send something out to saying, hey guys, if you sent something to us and you haven't heard from us yet, please let us know. So whether you're sending it to us as a facilitator, whether you're sending it to CGC because they're doing one of their signings, or any other facilitator, if you think about this, you're sending in a prized piece of memorabilia of yours. You should always, always, always make sure that whoever opens that knows exactly whose that is. Mm-hmm. So for instance, if it's a comic book, if it's a raw one, you can put on the backing board, here's my name, here's my phone number, here's my address, all the information. You can also say, hey, I want it signed by this person, I want it in this color, I want it in this spot, all of the information. Even though we know what we're doing, the more information you give us, the more likely you're going to get the product back exactly the way you want. Because if you don't tell us that you want something in bronze, and I think gold might look better, I want to know what you want as the customer. So.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah, so like they can have a customized signature.
Absolutely, absolutely. Plus, I've opened items, and on the box it's from David Johnson.
Yeah.
Well, you can imagine if we've got thousands and thousands of customers, we've got 10 or 15 David Johnsons. And I don't know who that David Johnson is. The other thing is a lot of our orders, they come through via email, and the email might not say David Johnson. Maybe it'll say, MarvelFan802@Yahoo. So I get that, and even though it says on the bottom, thank you, David, I can't match that up. So now I've got an item sitting here from David Johnson. I don't know who David Johnson is. I don't know what they want done with it, and it's hard for us as a facilitator to try to find that. We basically have to wait until somebody contacts us and says, hey, did you get my item? So it's, yeah. On TwinCitiesComics.com, there's actually a link on the very bottom of each page that says send in instructions.
Okay.
And it lists all of the instructions on the best way to send something in, whether it be a comic book, a poster, a photo, so that when you're sending it in, we know exactly what you as the customer want done with that.
Sounds good. So guys, if you need to get in touch to Torrey at Twin Cities Comics, all of the information is linked in this video's description down below in case if you want to get in contact with him. And Torrey, I want to thank you so much for being on the show today.
You are welcome. If anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to us.
So guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Make sure you smash that like button if you like today's content. Comment some feedback in the comment section down below. And lastly, subscribe to the channel to show your support and to potentially win a free slab once the channel reaches 2,000 subscribers. So again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.